In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to install and do a full custom scan with Malwarebytes Anti-Malware software. As you can see, we've got a bunch of infections already on this computer, so we want to work on getting rid of these. So we'll go ahead and run the program. You're going to right click on it and you want to run as administrator. Now, depending upon if you have user account controls on or off on your computer, you may or may not get this pop-up. If you do, just click yes. If you don't, it's just going to go ahead and launch the application installer. We'll click yes. You're going to want to select your language here. We're going to be in the US, so we want to stick with English. Go ahead and click OK. And then we just want to follow the prompts here. I'm going to click next. Here we need to accept the terms of service and license agreement from Malwarebytes, so we'll click accept, and then we'll go ahead and click the next button, and we'll click next again. And this is going to be the default install location. You want to leave this the way it is, don't change it. So we'll go ahead and click next, and we'll click next through this as well. And we want to create a desktop icon as well, just in case we need to relaunch the program. It makes it much easier. So we'll just leave that checked. If you do not want a desktop icon, just uncheck that and then click next. And this is the final install screen. We'll go ahead and click install, and it's going to go ahead and install the program for us. Now, once the install completes, we have the option here of enabling a free trial of Malwarebytes. For the premium version, we want to uncheck that. We don't want that for the purpose of cleaning this computer. We're just going to go ahead and uncheck it, and then we'll launch Malwarebytes. So we'll leave that checked and we'll click finish. All right, this is the default program interface. As you can see, the first thing it does is it updates the virus definitions for the virus scan that we're going to be doing. If the computer does not have an internet connection at this time, that's okay. The program will still run. Obviously, you will have to transfer the installer via a USB drive from a clean computer that you downloaded it from, but that's okay. Once we get everything cleaned up, we can run it again once the computer does have an internet connection. In terms of this system, we do have an internet connection, so it did go ahead and update. The first thing I always do regardless is I go ahead and update now again, just to make sure I have the most current version of the definitions available. And then what we want to do is we want to go to the additional scan tab here. We're going to be running a custom scan. Threat scan is a quick basic scan. It's good to do maybe daily if you're cleaning up your computer or you want to make sure it stays clean. But for the purposes of this video, we're actually going to do a custom scan. We want to do a little more in-depth scan. So we'll click on custom scan, and then we'll configure the scan here. Now what you're going to see over here is any hard drives that you have attached to this computer. If you are not sure which ones you want to check, of course you obviously want to check the C drive, but if you have a big list of drives here and you're just not sure which is a valid drive, could be an external drive, could be a thumb drive that you have plugged in, could also be a recovery partition on your C drive, go ahead and check everything that you have in this column over here. If it's not a drive or if there's not something attached to it, it's not going to scan it and it's not going to cause any issues. So if you're in doubt, go ahead and check everything here. I know that the C drive is the only drive that we have on this computer, so we'll check that. And then the additional setting that we want to do is we want to scan for rootkits here. So we want to make sure we check this button and click the scan now. First thing the computer is going to do is it's going to go out and actually check for updates again, and then it's going to start our scan. And it'll go through each of these processes for scanning for rootkits, scanning the memory, scanning startup files, scanning registry, scanning file system, and then it'll do a final analysis. And then it'll show us all the infections that we have. As you can see, the scan has already started here on this system, and it's going pretty quickly. And what we'll do is we'll pause this video and we'll come back and show you a completed scan once the system has found some infections, and we'll show you how to remove all the infections that it does find. Alright, we'll go ahead and show you a quick update on this program since the scan is in progress and it is already finding some infections. Just want you to see what it looks like when it does start finding infections and encountering malicious files that we don't want on the system. You'll see the detected objects has showed up, and you'll get a number of how many detected infections or objects the program is finding. What you'll notice is it'll start out yellow If it's only finding potentially unwanted programs that you may not want, programs that may be slowing the computer down, causing issues like that, non-responsive internet, it will show a yellow dot here. When it starts finding infections such as viruses, Trojan, and serious malware, that yellow dot will change to red. So we'll let the scan finish, and then we'll come back and we'll show you how to completely remove all of these infections. All right, welcome back to the completed scan of Malwarebytes Anti-Malware. As you can see, we have some infections listed here. Right now, all you see is the potentially unwanted programs that have been flagged by the program. Up here gives you the total count of the identified threats that the program has found, and it has already selected these threats for us as well. As you can see, we've got 316 identified threats on this computer. If you look down here, this is kind of the categories that the program lists out for you. This gives you an idea of the name of the threat that the program has found. This is also found in the logs as well. Make sure these logs are available in case you do have to take your computer into a technician. This will give him a good place to start looking at what's going on and to finish up the cleanup process if you have to do that. The other category lists what the programs or what the infections are. As you can see, these are all listed as potentially unwanted programs, but if we start scrolling down the list here, we'll see the malware, and as you can see, they have a red dot. That means it's really urgent, and we want to definitely get rid of these files. So we find malware here, and we just scroll on down the list, and we can see the other potentially unwanted programs, any other malware that's found, etc. And then the next column tells you the type of malware that is being found. So it will either be a file, that would be a file that's located on the hard drive, stored in your documents area, in your app data, wherever that the infection installed files at when it infected the computer. That would be these files and where it would list the file type. Registry key would be found in the registry, of course, and you don't want to go in and mess with any of these manually. Let the program deal with anything that this finds. Don't go in and edit your registry. It's not recommended unless you absolutely positively know what you're doing in there. And then this tells you it's a process. So this would be a process where the computer starts up. It's firing up a process, whether it be an updater, whether it be the executable to make the virus actually run when the computer boots. It's firing up a process that starts with the computer and all the other processes and programs. So we want to make sure that everything is checked here for us, and we can do that. The easiest way is to click this all button right next to the threat, and it'll check every infection that the system has found or the program has found. Now, once we've checked all the threats, Malwarebytes has re-updated their software a number of times, and they've made it super easy and super user-friendly. So once we've got all the threats checked that we want to remove, all we have to do is click the Remove Selected button, and it's going to go ahead and pull off these infections for us. And this gives us an update on what kind of scan we did and the amount of threats successfully quarantined. So this is the amount of time it took to actually perform the scan that ran. These are the amount of files or items that were scanned by the program. And then these are the threats that were identified. So it gives you just a quick, brief rundown of the scan that took place. So as you can see, now the program is actually performing the removal process. You can see it counting up here. It's already removed all of the threats. And then we get a pop-up that says we need to reboot the computer. This is very common with almost every virus program. Now, sometimes you won't have to perform a restart or a reboot on the computer, but more so often than not, you do have to perform a restart. And the reason for that is the program needs to unlock some of these files, and that process takes place when the system is rebooted. And then it can finish removing or deleting all of the files that are remaining that it couldn't remove because they were either active or running at the time it tried to remove them. So we're going to go ahead and click yes and let this process run. And it's going to just shut down the computer and perform a reboot. After this happens, you're done. The program is completed running, and we can move on to the next program and next tutorial.